the strip has been completely devastated. There have been more than 2 million people there, and all of them have been displaced multiple times. So a large part of the strip now is filled with tents, people and their families, 5 to 10 people in a small tent, living packed right up to the seashore, including up to the high tide line. At the moment, people are not allowed to swim or fish because there's Israeli Navy boats there that are also shooting at people. On the streets itself, people have been made completely dependent on water and food from outside at the moment. Hospitals are overflowing. Electricity has been cut off for 2 years. And there are some areas where people have been forcibly displaced from, where buildings have been completely destroyed, and it looks like a complete ghost town.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. Now that phase 1 of President Trump's fragile peace deal is being slowly implemented, we turn our focus to Gaza itself. Over 67,000 people have been killed, more than 20,000 of them are children, and almost 170,000 have been injured. Whilst United Nations agencies report famine and widespread malnutrition, the strip is devastated, with 90% of houses reportedly damaged or even destroyed, and the healthcare system is close to collapse. But what does all of that mean for the people of Gaza? Joining me now to give us a more graphic account of what conditions are like and how Gaza looks and feels is someone who has just returned from the strip, the Emergency Health Manager of Medecins Sans Frontières, Pereira. Dr. Pereira joins us from Amsterdam. Dr. Pereira, you've just been in Gaza, as I said in the introduction. Why don't you start by telling the audience what Gaza looks and feels like?
Thank you, Karan. So the one thing about Gaza that reminds me of my hometown of Goa is that it's by the coast. And it had actually quite a high level of healthcare before the war. But that's where the similarities end. Now, since the last 2 years, the strip has been completely devastated. There have been more than 2 million people there, and all of them have been displaced multiple times. So a large part of the strip now is filled with tents, people and their families, 5 to 10 people in a small tent, living packed right up to the seashore, including up to the high tide line. At the moment, people are not allowed to swim or fish because there's Israeli Navy boats there that are also shooting at people. On the streets itself, people have been made completely dependent on water and food from outside at the moment. Hospitals are overflowing. Electricity has been cut off for 2 years. And there are some areas where people have been forcibly displaced from, where buildings have been completely destroyed, and it looks like a complete ghost town.
Now, several United Nations agencies have estimated that around 90% of homes in Gaza have been damaged or even destroyed. As a result, as you said yourself, most people are living in tents, and many in a part of Gaza called Al-Mawasi. What are conditions like for them? What sort of life, what sort of existence, I should say, do they live through?
So the people of Gaza have been used to a high level of living conditions before this conflict as well. So for now, everybody has been moved to tents. These tents They don't have electricity. They don't have water. People don't have food. I've seen people, including videos where people have had to dig a hole for a latrine because there's no place, no latrines there as well. Same with water. People have been waiting for water trucks. So it's crowded conditions. Many of these people have been injured, wounded, and to be able to take care of these wounds in tents without getting infected is nearly impossible as well.
So it's not just a very basic existence. In many respects, it sounds subhuman.
Yeah, it's completely subhuman, and we know that there's a genocide ongoing there as well. So we've seen conditions, and these are the people who are lucky to have survived. As you've already mentioned, so many people have not been so lucky. Everybody knows people and their families who have been killed or maimed for life, scars including physical but also mental.
Now, the United Nations-backed Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, known by its initials IPC, has confirmed famine in the Strip. What sort of food is available to the people of Gaza? What does famine actually in concrete terms mean? And how difficult is it to get that food?
So Gaza is like an open-air prison. And as one hospital director actually said, more than at least open air prisons, you are safe. Here, you're not safe because, in addition to being a prison, you're being bombed consistently from the air. There's sounds of drones, explosions happening all the time. You're not allowed to farm, so even whatever farming was happening there is not been able to happen. So people have been completely dependent on an external aid coming in. There were these sites that were set up with Israeli support called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and more than thousands of people who went there in search of food were shot at by armed people on the way out, and many people died looking for food there. So in terms of food, people are completely dependent now on humanitarian aid coming in through different mechanisms. In terms of food, there's people who haven't seen fruits or vegetables and especially children who've been born in the last 2 years have never seen a fruit or a vegetable because it has not been allowed in and have been completely dependent on canned food. The situation has improved slightly this month compared to previous months, but we have seen large numbers of patients, especially the most vulnerable, which is children and pregnant and lactating women, who we have been treating for malnutrition.
You say people are almost completely dependent upon canned food. What sort of canned food is available to them? And secondly, how easy is it for people to get clean, potable water?
So, to give you an example, the price of a bag of flour that people need to eat went up more than 100 times in the last months. Now it has come down a bit, the price, because there has been some improvements, but it's still 10 times before the conflict. So people are unable to afford any of the food and have been eating the same cans for multiple years whenever they have access to it. Many people, including our own staff in MSF, have been surviving on a meal a day often because of the limited supply of food that has been happening in the Gaza Strip as well. Water is another serious issue. A lot of the water in the Gaza Strip is actually brackish or salty, so it's not you're not able to drink it. Israel has cut off the pipelines, including the Mikorot pipeline, from which water was coming in for drinking. So now organizations like MSF and others have had to use reverse osmosis plants to convert salt water to clean water for drinking. And we say that the minimum threshold in an emergency is about 20 liters per person a day, which is basically one bucket. Until now, people are not even able to get that one bucket of water per day. So MSF and other organizations are currently converting salt water to drinking water and trucking it across the strip to be able to give people a minimum water amount just to survive.
So is diarrhea and a whole range of gastrointestinal diseases a major problem?
Absolutely. So we see a lot of diarrheal cases. We're seeing thousands in our clinics on a weekly basis. Similarly, skin infections, scabies as well, things that you need to wash up, you're not able to because there's not enough water.
Now, reports suggest that nearly 460 people have died of starvation, including over 150 children. Reports also say that 25% of Gaza's children suffer from acute malnutrition. How precarious is the life of a child in Gaza today?
I don't think anybody would want to be a child, let alone a person in Gaza today. as I mentioned, there's children who have been born in the last 2 years. The only sound they know is the sound of Israeli surveillance drones in the air, the sounds of explosions. And for children like this, not to bat an eyelid is unthinkable for children anywhere in the world. Same with food and green vegetables or micronutrients that children need. They've not been able to have this. I met a child, and this is, I wish it was an exceptional case, but it's not. Her whole family was killed in the recent explosions and incursions in Gaza City, and she survived. What was the cost of her survival? Both her legs amputated. So the physical and the mental scars that this is going to leave on people for years to come is unimaginable.
You talk of children whose limbs have been amputated. According to UNICEF, perhaps as many as 4,000 children in Gaza have lost one or more limbs. How capable is the healthcare system in Gaza, such as it is, in handling these problems?
So the healthcare system of Gaza was of a very high level, including specialized care before the conflict as well. But the healthcare system has been deliberately decimated. 1,000 healthcare workers have been killed, including more than 15 of our own colleagues from MSF during this time. So this genocide has not left healthcare workers or hospitals alone. There is not a single functioning healthcare hospital left in the Gaza Strip, fully functional. There's partially functional hospitals, a lot of them with NGO support that are currently functioning in the Gaza Strip.
You say that hospitals are only partly functioning. There is no fully functional hospital left. What is the state of these surviving hospitals? We see on television, particularly on the BBC, horrific images of what the state of hospitals are like. Give me a first-hand account of what you saw and experienced.
Yeah, I thought what I saw in images would help me prepare for what I saw on the ground, but every hospital that I visited, and I visited multiple since MSF supports about 12 to 13 different healthcare facilities, some in collaboration with the Ministry of Health as well. So some of these hospitals, for example, Al Nasser, which is the largest hospital, was actually bombed by Israel a couple of months ago as well. And this is when you have patients there who are not supposed to be a target. When you walk through the wards, you have people lying on the corridors, a huge number of people waiting around the hospital as well for care. Hospitals are seeing mass casualty incidents pretty much on a daily basis with people coming in with explosions or as victims of explosions. And this is completely indiscriminate. So there's children, women, young men, everybody. Nobody is spared in this war.
Tell me, how often are surgeries being done without proper anesthesia?
So fortunately, at least in the facilities that MSF supports, we have managed to get in enough supplies to be able to perform what I would call war surgery, which is just mending people to keep them alive. There's a lot of physical medicine and rehabilitation that's required after this, and probably revision surgeries. However, we've had to do jugaad as well. We've had to look at alternating supplies based on what is available, because many items are not being allowed. There are huge amounts of supplies, including medical equipment, that has been in Egypt, in Jordan, in Israel, waiting to come in at the borders, but has not been allowed in. To give you an example, in this war, external fixators, which we use for fractures and to fix them or to stabilize them, are not being allowed in during this conflict by Israel. So we've had to find other ways to fix people's fractures at the moment, which is really, really difficult.
What percentage of the doctors working in these hospitals are actually people who've come from abroad to help out the situation in Gaza? One keeps hearing about doctors who come from Medecins Sans Frontières or from other agencies. What percentage would be the number that have come from abroad?
So organizations like MSF, majority of our staff are Palestinian, including majority of the healthcare workers, including doctors who are working without a break day in and day out. And these are people who are looking after their families, are displaced themselves, and come with a smile on their face to work as well. So as MSF, we have about 40 or so international workers, in addition to more than 1,000 Palestinian workers, plus we support Ministry of Health workers, another 1,000 as well. There are other NGOs as well who have international workers at the moment, but largely the healthcare system is run well by the Ministry of Health and Palestinian workers with some support from international humanitarian organizations.
Dr. Pereira, let's talk a little bit more directly about your own organization, Medecins Sans Frontières. Tell me, What is the sort of work you do? Can you explain and describe it for the audience?
Yes. So Médecins Sans Frontières, or MSF, is the French word and acronym for Doctors Without Borders. So it was formed about 50 years ago. And the main principle is no matter what your political affiliation, what your religion, what your ethnicity is, if you need healthcare, you have a right to it, and we want to offer it to you. So MSF has been working in places where people have been excluded from healthcare for the last 50 years. MSF received the Nobel Peace Prize in '99 for their work as well. Currently, we work in about 70 different countries, mainly a lot of the war zones, conflicts of the world, but also with neglected tropical diseases or outbreaks. Wherever somebody is excluded from healthcare, we try to help with that. At the same time, we see our role also to bear witness by what we're seeing on the ground, as we're seeing in Gaza, telling the story as it is.
Tell me, how many people do you have in Gaza and what are conditions like for your staff there? I take it they are suffering to the same extent and in the same way as the people of Gaza themselves.
Absolutely. I have the utmost respect for our staff. We have more than 1,000 staff in MSF currently working in Gaza. Many of them, if not everybody, has lost family members themselves. Just the week after I left, two of the staff who I was working with passed away as well in an explosion caused by Israel while they were on their way to work. These are people who experienced running the system, especially physiotherapy and all for years, and have been indiscriminately killed. This is now the number of MSF staff who died are 15 during the last 2 years of the war, when no healthcare worker is supposed to be targeted.
So, if I understand you correctly, doctors and other healthcare workers working for MSF run the risk of being killed every single day, maybe even every single moment of the time they're there.
Absolutely. And I think it's more so for our Palestinian colleagues as well. It is indiscriminate what's happening. It has been clearly stated as a genocide, and we see it there as well in terms of people not being allowed healthcare, the attacks on healthcare workers, and not being allowed water or shelter or food as well.
Now, since the peace deal, Israel is once again permitting some sort of quantity of aid to enter Gaza, although with very substantial restrictions. The Rafah crossing, for instance, is closed. No aid is available through that crossing. How much of a difference has this additional aid in the last week made?
It's too soon to say. We have not yet seen the impact of this additional aid. The backlog of healthcare and the needs that is required is still tremendous. So we're still waiting to see the impact in terms of an increased medical supply, increased food, increased water, increased equipment to be able to maintain our machinery, to be able to run hospitals or generators or cars. All these things are currently not yet allowed, and we hope that in the coming time they will be allowed. We also hope that humanitarian access is not used as a bargaining chip in a war, like how it is currently being done.
To be able to adequately cover the whole of Gaza's needs, it's estimated that at the minimum 600 trucks of aid are required every day, although I gather the number could be higher than 600. But how is that aid distributed? And are there effective ways of ensuring equitable distribution?
Yes, for the last 2 years, there is a United Nations led principled humanitarian system that has been distributing the aid. And we have seen and we have been able to distribute the aid ourselves. So, whatever supplies have been coming for our hospitals, for our water, we have been distributing it quite effectively without any large scale diversion of aid that the other people have been claiming. So, as far as we can see, we are able to distribute aid. We also hope that the open market opens again so that people are not only dependent on humanitarian aid and people have access by other means as well.
Now, when the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was set up by Israel and America, it was done on the excuse that earlier aid being distributed through NGOs like yourselves or the United Nations agencies, that aid was being stolen by Hamas. How do you respond to that allegation?
Yeah, I think there have been many independent inquiries that have shown that that wasn't the case. It has been unsubstantiated. Definitely from our side as MSF on the ground, we have not seen this. And same with all the healthcare facilities where we are working as well. We ensure that anybody who needs access is able to do that and that there are no armed workers there. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has been a disaster. So they did provide aid, but the number of people who have been killed at these sites like shooting targets is unspeakable.
So aid has always been getting to the people it needs to get to. That was the case in the past. That is the case today as well, now that more aid is being permitted.
Well, not enough because Israel severely limits the amount of aid that is coming in and is using it as a weapon of war. There has been some aid getting in, but not nearly enough for the needs of 2 million people in the Gaza Strip.
But the diversion that Israel claims Hamas was doing, that is untrue.
As far as we have seen, there has been no evidence of this.
Tell me about Hamas. Since the peace deal, Hamas has been reasserting its presence in Gaza, and there are even television footage of Hamas executing people it considers collaborators or just rivals. What sort of presence does Hamas maintain in Gaza? How visible, how easy to spot and identify were Hamas people when you were there?
Yeah, no, I can only speak of what I've seen about, so I can't say too much about Hamas. For us, we have been working with the Ministry of Health of Gaza all this time to ensure the safety of our staff and of the patients there. Hamas used to be the governing authority there, and as we do with in all the conflicts of the world, we speak to all sides of a conflict, including in this case the governing authorities in Gaza Strip or Israel to ensure access to healthcare.
I don't want to ask you an unfair question, but do you have any sense of whether Hamas's popularity has been affected over the last 2 years? After all, with over 67,000 dead and nearly 170,000 injured, there may be many people in Gaza who now are taking out their anger, maybe even their wrath on Hamas. Did you get any sense of that?
Unfortunately, I've not been seen any of this myself yet. We do worry right now of the future of the Gaza Strip because even though there is a ceasefire currently, how long this is going to hold is to be seen. But people need peace. People need more healthcare being able to enter in the coming time. And if this is indeed the start of a rebuilding process, there is so much unmet need that still needs to be addressed.
Finally, my last question, Dr. Pereira. If the ceasefire holds, what steps does Medecins Sans Frontières intend to take in Gaza? What are the tasks that you would then focus on?
So there's the part that's within the Gaza Strip and the part that's outside. So within the Gaza Strip, we continue supporting all the hospitals we have. We are looking at where population displacement is happening now, where it is moving. Even with the ceasefire deal, more than 50%, 58% of the strip is still under the control of Israel. So right now we're looking to increase water supply, increase shelter, increase healthcare where it was not accessible before. So currently we're looking how to be able to expand that. Outside of the Gaza Strip, there has been a list of more than 10,000 people needing medical evacuations to foreign countries for healthcare that is not available in the Gaza Strip. Many of these people, including around 130 children, have died on this waiting list over time. So in addition to expanding in the Gaza Strip, we've been calling on many countries all over the world, including India, to see where patients can go for care, for life-saving care that is not available in the Gaza Strip and will not be available in the coming short term as well.
Now, as you said, even after the start of the peace deal, 53% of Gaza remains under Israeli control. And if the Trump map withdrawal lines are to be followed, ultimately, whenever ultimately happens, Israel will still control a 15% perimeter. Does Israel in any way obstruct your work? Does Israel get in the way of the work MSF does and wants to do?
The sad and the short answer is yes. For the amount of needs, the amount of access that is required is currently not there at all. And humanitarian aid is being used as a weapon of war, which needs to stop completely so that people have access to the care, the food, the water, and the basic conditions of life that they need.
So Israel is an obstacle to the work MSF does.
So there are clear examples of humanitarian aid that are not being allowed to enter in, including now with food that has led to the famine, on healthcare, on the amount of water that people need. So yes, the conditions are not there for the conditions for life are not being able to met fully because of obstructions put forth from the outside.
Very quickly, what is the excuse or the explanation that Israel gives for creating these obstructions?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but this is the reality that we've seen on the ground. The reality is that humanitarian access and healthcare is suboptimal and has been suboptimal for some time. So we do call on them to continue opening the borders and allow as much aid that is required to get in so that people have access.
Dr. Pereira, thank you very much for talking to me, and thank you very much for painting this very graphic picture of what the conditions in Gaza are like. You brought home to the Indian audience, perhaps for the first time, how subhuman, to use that word that you used, the conditions are. I thank you for the time you've given me. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.